Robert Kiyosaki's story is not just the journey of one man, it is the story of millions of people around the world who grow up believing that the path to success is simple: go to school, get good grades, find a job, work hard for decades, save whatever little you can, and hope that life turns out fine. But what happens when this path, the one society celebrates, leads not to freedom but to stress, debt, fear, and a life where you work endlessly yet never feel truly secure? This is the world Robert Kiyosaki was born into, a world where people chased stability but rarely achieved it. And his journey begins in the warm, peaceful landscapes of Hawaii, where he was raised in a modest Japanese-American household. The gentle breeze, the quiet culture, and the simplicity of island life shaped his childhood, but so did the silent financial struggle he saw all around him. Robert's father, an educated academic, was a man of principles, discipline, and integrity. He believed deeply in the power of education and dedicated his life to the school system. But even with his impressive degrees and respected position, financial security was always slipping away. Robert grew up watching bills pile up, seeing dreams get delayed, and observing how hard work did not always translate to financial freedom. These early images burned themselves into his mind, becoming the foundation for questions that would change his entire life. As Robert grew older, he began noticing something unusual. While his own home lived on discipline and limited money, there were other families in Hawaii who seemed to float through life effortlessly. They took vacations, opened businesses, invested confidently, and lived with a calm certainty that money was not their enemy. Robert could not understand why some families struggled endlessly while others seemed to thrive, even though many of them were not as formally educated as his father. This contrast sparked a fire inside him, a desire to understand the hidden rules of money. He wanted to know what nobody seemed willing to talk about: why do so many people stay poor despite working their whole lives? Why do schools teach everything except how money actually works? And why are people ashamed to discuss financial problems? As if struggling was something to hide. These questions grew louder with time. While his classmates played or talked about sports, Robert spent time thinking about money, opportunity, and the mystery behind financial success. The real turning point came when he met his childhood friend Mike, whose father would later become the legendary Rich Dad. Mike's home was different. There was a pulse of business energy, conversations about deals, discussions about cash flow, and a sense of confidence Robert had never seen before. It felt like stepping into a different world. When Robert gathered the courage to ask his father how he could become rich, his father replied with honesty, "I'm not the right person to teach you about money." That single sentence changed the direction of Robert's life forever. It pushed him toward a mentor who would reshape his understanding of wealth from the ground up. Robert Kiyosaki's journey begins long before the world knew him as the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Born in 1947 in Hilo, Hawaii, he grew up in a humble Japanese-American household where discipline, respect, and consistency were core values. His father, Ralph Kiyosaki, was a highly educated academic who worked his way up to become the superintendent of education in Hawaii, and his mother was a supportive homemaker who believed deeply in the power of education. As a child, Robert saw his parents working tirelessly to give their children a stable life, but he also noticed the financial stress that quietly had a presence in the house. This early environment shaped his thinking because he saw two different worlds, one where education was the ultimate answer, and another where money seemed to control everything despite education. He grew up surrounded by the beauty of Hawaii, but beneath the calm beaches and peaceful landscapes, he constantly observed the difference between families who struggled and families who had more freedom. This contrast slowly developed inside him a curiosity, a desire to understand why some people worked their whole lives yet remained stuck financially, while others accumulated wealth and lived comfortably. As he advanced through school, he realized that classroom lessons rarely spoke about money, wealth, or financial strategy. His father encouraged him to study and get good grades, but Robert's mind kept asking deeper questions about real life. Questions that traditional education did not answer. This early foundation set the stage for a major transformation that would come later in his life, leading him to challenge everything society taught about money. First exposure to Rich Dad, extended version. Robert's life changed forever when he became friends with a boy named Mike, whose father would later be known as the famous Rich Dad. While Robert's own father believed in the power of formal education, Mike's father believed in business, risk, investment, and financial intelligence. Robert was fascinated by the way Mike's father lived, confident, calm, and financially independent, very different from the financially stressed families who relied solely on monthly salaries. At age 9, Robert asked his father how he could become rich, and his father admitted, "I'm not the right person to teach you about money." This honesty pushed Robert toward Mike's father, a man who became his mentor. Rich Dad did not teach Robert through textbooks, he taught him by exposing him to real business situations. He showed him how money truly worked, how people emotionally reacted to fear and greed, and how opportunities appeared to those who could recognize them. Robert and Mike worked in small tasks for Rich Dad not to earn money, but to experience the world of business firsthand, something school could never provide. Rich Dad explained to them why poor and middle-class people stay trapped in the cycle of working for money, while the wealthy learn how to make money work for them. These lessons slowly shaped Robert's thinking, challenging every belief he had been taught about money, success, and financial security. The contrast between his highly educated father and his financially intelligent mentor became the foundation of the philosophy that would one day change millions of lives. Lessons from Rich Dad, the harsh truth about money, extended version. Rich Dad's teachings were not easy for Robert. They were direct, sometimes uncomfortable, and often went against what society told him. Rich Dad taught him that relying on a job is the slowest path to wealth because it keeps people dependent and fearful. He emphasized that formal education prepares people to be good employees, not successful entrepreneurs or investors. Robert learned that taxes, inflation, and liabilities are traps that keep the average person working endlessly. While school taught him algebra and history, Rich Dad taught him how the wealthy think, how they understand assets, how they create cash flow, how they reduce taxes legally, and how they identify opportunities where others see risks. Rich Dad trained Robert to observe human behavior, how people let fear stop them, how they get stuck in routines, and how they hesitate to invest in themselves. He explained that financial success is not about luck, it is about discipline, knowledge, and courage. As Robert grew older, the lessons became deeper. Rich Dad put him into real scenarios, decision-making situations where Robert had to think like a businessman. These experiences were uncomfortable but life-changing. Slowly, Robert realized that success requires unlearning many of the beliefs he grew up with. He began to understand that wealth is built through strategy, not salary, through vision, not education alone, through courage, not comfort. This foundational mindset was preparing him for a future filled with both struggle and extraordinary achievement. Military journey, discipline, leadership, and toughness. Extended version. After finishing school, Robert joined the U.S. Marine Corps, and this decision became one of the most defining chapters of his life. The military strengthened the discipline that Rich Dad had introduced. He trained under intense pressure, learned strategic thinking, and developed leadership skills that most people never gain in their lifetimes. While fighting in the Vietnam War as a helicopter gunship pilot, Robert learned the importance of making quick decisions, staying calm in chaos, and taking responsibility for the lives of others. These experiences reshaped his personality, making him mentally unbreakable and emotionally resilient. The battlefield taught him lessons no classroom or business environment could ever teach: survival, teamwork, courage, and accountability. He later said that the military prepared him for the business world better than any business school could. The discipline he developed under extreme circumstances became the fuel for his future entrepreneurial ventures. He learned to see challenges not as obstacles but as training grounds for greatness. This period also strengthened his belief that fear is the biggest enemy of success, not failure. These lessons stayed with him forever and later became some of the most powerful principles in his books and teachings. First business attempts failures. Extended version. After leaving the military, Robert entered the business world with confidence and ambition, but life did not reward him immediately. His first few businesses failed miserably. He started a company that sold nylon and Velcro wallets, and for a short time, it seemed successful because big stores began carrying his products. However, as competitors entered the market, his company collapsed under financial pressure. He faced bankruptcy, debt, and discouragement. This period was incredibly painful because the world around him judged him harshly for failing. Yet, Robert used these failures as his greatest teachers. He realized that entrepreneurship is not a straight path. It is filled with setbacks that test one's character and determination. Instead of giving up, he studied market patterns, consumer behavior, and investment strategies. He understood that mistakes were not signs of weakness but stepping stones toward mastery. This tough period pushed him to evolve into a smarter, more strategic entrepreneur. It was during this time that Rich Dad's lessons finally clicked. Financial education, real-world experience, and resilience matter more than any degree or traditional career path. After multiple failures, Robert Kiyosaki entered the next phase of his life with a deeper understanding of business, markets, and human psychology. Instead of feeling defeated, he used every failure as a training session, sharpening his financial intelligence. This was the period where he finally began to understand what Rich Dad meant when he said, "Failure is part of the process. The only ones who never fail are the ones who never try." Robert realized that entrepreneurship was not about playing it safe, it was about learning faster than the competition and adapting before others even understood what was happening. He started studying different industries, exploring how wealthy people moved their money, how they protected themselves legally, and how they multiplied their income streams. He attended seminars, read books, listened to mentors, and absorbed every lesson he could find. During this stage, Robert began investing heavily in real estate. He found that property investment was one of the most reliable ways to build passive income if done correctly. He purchased small properties, learned how to manage tenants, understood cash flow, and discovered how leverage could turn small amounts of money into powerful assets. Every property he bought gave him more confidence and understanding. Instead of chasing quick money, he focused on long-term financial stability. The more he invested, the more he realized that real wealth comes not from working harder but from making smarter decisions. At the same time, Robert started building side businesses that aligned with his lifestyle. He created products, taught financial education, and participated in various investment ventures. What made this period special was that Robert no longer saw mistakes as a threat, he saw them as feedback. He became fearless, bold, and strategic, characteristics that would soon define his entire legacy. Slowly but surely, Robert emerged from survival mode into a position of stability, control, and financial freedom. This transformation was not sudden, it was built through sleepless nights, risky decisions, endless learning, and unshakable belief in his purpose. Birth of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, fully extended for 7-minute voiceover. By the early 1990s, something extraordinary happened. Robert, now financially independent, decided to share what he had learned, not to brag, but to help millions of people escape the financial traps he saw everywhere. He used the two most powerful influences in his life, his poor dad, his real father, and his rich dad, his mentor, and turned their contrasting philosophies into a book. At first, no publisher was interested. They believed people were not interested in learning about money in this way. But Robert remained determined. He self-published Rich Dad Poor Dad, unaware that this book would soon change the entire world's understanding of wealth. The message was simple yet revolutionary: the poor and middle class work for money, while the rich make money work for them. The book broke every traditional belief about education, jobs, and savings. It explained that schools teach people how to work for others but never teach them how to build wealth for themselves. Readers connected deeply with this message because they finally saw their own struggles being explained in simple, relatable language. The book did not tell people what to do, it told them how to think differently. Word spread like wildfire. People shared the book with friends, families, colleagues, and entire communities. Soon, Rich Dad Poor Dad became a bestseller, translated into dozens of languages, and reached every corner of the world. Robert had unintentionally started a financial literacy revolution. His writing exposed the hidden rules of the rich, revealing what schools never taught and what most people never questioned. The success of the book opened doors to interviews, seminars, workshops, and global events, and Robert became a global voice for financial education. But more importantly, the book became a blueprint for millions of people looking to escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. Worldwide Fame Financial Education Mission, fully extended for 7-minute voiceover. With the massive success of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's life entered a completely new chapter. He was no longer just an entrepreneur or investor, he became a global educator. His message reached people who had never learned anything about money in school, and it inspired them to break free from financial fear. Robert traveled from country to country, hosting large seminars, teaching people how to understand assets, liabilities, and cash flow in simple, practical ways. His communication style wasn't academic or complicated, he spoke directly, using stories, real-life examples, and relatable situations. He created the Rich Dad Company, launching financial education tools, books, games, and training programs. One of his most famous creations was the cash flow board game, which helped people understand investing and passive income through a fun, interactive experience. Robert's mission was not to make people rich instantly, it was to open their minds, teach them how to think, and help them see opportunities that were invisible before. The world embraced his teachings because they addressed real problems: debt, financial stress, job insecurity, and lack of financial knowledge. Governments, universities, and corporations invited him to speak. His message became universal because every society faced the same issues: people were smart but financially uneducated. Robert challenged old systems and pushed people to question the traditional path of working for decades only to retire with barely enough money to survive. As he gained international recognition, critics also emerged, accusing him of being too harsh or unrealistic. But Robert never stopped. He believed that telling people the comfortable truth wouldn't help them escape financial struggle. His goal was to shake people awake, to make them see that the world was changing fast and only those with financial intelligence would survive. Instead of debating with critics, he continued writing books, teaching students, and inspiring future entrepreneurs and investors. Investment Philosophy, Real Estate Empire Wealth Strategy, fully extended for 7-minute voiceover. Behind the scenes of his fame, Robert continued building his real estate empire. His investing philosophy was simple but powerful: buy assets that put money in your pocket. He focused mostly on real estate because it offered steady cash flow, tax benefits, and long-term growth. Robert believed that the rich use debt strategically, not fearfully. He taught that there is good debt and bad debt. Good debt helps you buy assets that generate income, bad debt destroys your financial life. He bought apartment buildings, commercial properties, and rental units in different parts of the country. Each investment gave him more financial freedom. He understood market cycles, interest rates, property valuations, and tenant management. Over time, he built a portfolio that allowed him to earn money even while he slept. But he didn't stop at real estate. Robert invested in oil, gold, silver, small businesses, and even startups. His strategy was always long-term. He loved industries that were essential: housing, energy, metals, and avoided things that relied on luck. He taught that diversification protects people from market crashes, and financial intelligence helps them turn crises into opportunities. Robert also emphasized the importance of understanding taxes. He believed that the tax code rewards investors and entrepreneurs because they contribute to society by creating jobs, housing, and opportunities. He used legal strategies to reduce his taxes while increasing his wealth, something he openly taught in his seminars. By this point, Robert had achieved the lifestyle Rich Dad once told him about: a life where money worked for him, not the other way around. He spent his days teaching, investing, traveling, and living with purpose. Legacy, impact lessons the world will never forget, fully extended for 7-minute voiceover. Today, Robert Kiyosaki is more than an author, he is a global symbol of financial awakening. His teachings have changed the lives of millions of people who once believed that job security was the only path to success. Through his books, seminars, board games, podcasts, and interviews, Robert has spread financial awareness across generations. His message continues to inspire people to question traditional beliefs and build smarter financial habits. He encouraged people to invest in themselves, acquire skills, think independently, and never fear failure. Robert believes that the greatest investment is the one you make in your mind because financial intelligence is the tool that can turn a poor person into a wealthy one. He transformed the way the world looks at money by giving people the courage to step outside their comfort zones and pursue financial freedom. As we reach the end of Robert Kiyosaki's powerful journey, from a curious boy in Hawaii to one of the world's most influential financial thinkers, we are reminded that real transformation never happens in comfort. Robert's life is proof that success is not a gift, not an accident, and not a matter of luck. It is the result of relentless learning, painful failures, tough decisions, and a courage that refuses to break even when everything seems impossible. His story teaches us that you can come from any background, face any hardship, and still rise to the top if you are willing to question the world around you and rebuild your mindset from the ground up. Through his rich dad's lessons, his military discipline, his entrepreneurial failures, and his global mission, Robert discovered the truth that most people never realize: the greatest asset you will ever possess is not money, it is your mind. If you train it, strengthen it, and expand it, money will naturally follow. But if you ignore it, fear will control your decisions, and you will spend your life trapped in the same cycle that millions are stuck in today. This outro is not just a closing chapter, it is a call to action, a reminder that every listener has the power to change their financial destiny. Robert Kiyosaki's teachings exist not to make you depend on his words, but to empower you to think independently. To see opportunities where others see obstacles, to question traditions that no longer serve you, and to build a life where money becomes a tool rather than a source of stress. His story pushes us to break free from the invisible chains of job security, societal pressure, and fear-based decision-making. It invites us to build assets, create value, invest wisely, and understand the language of money so deeply that financial freedom becomes a natural consequence of our thinking. For Robert, success was never about owning luxurious cars, massive properties, or a glamorous lifestyle. Success was about freedom, the freedom to choose how to live, where to work, and what dreams to pursue without being controlled by bills, debts, or a paycheck. And that is the deeper message he leaves us with: wealth is not measured by how much money you earn, but by how long you can live without working. It is measured by the strength of your decisions and the clarity of your vision. It is measured by the assets you build, the cash flow you create, and the courage you develop along the way. Robert reminds us that life will constantly challenge you. Markets will crash, economies will slow. Jobs will disappear, and unexpected storms will try to break your spirit. But it is in those moments of uncertainty that financial intelligence becomes your shield, your strength, and your advantage. The people who thrive are not the ones who fear change, they are the ones who understand it. They are the ones who prepare their minds long before the battle begins. As we close this journey, imagine Robert Kiyosaki standing before you, not as an author, not as a millionaire, but as a mentor passing the torch to the next generation. His message echoes through every page he has written, every seminar he has delivered, every interview he has given: you are far more powerful than you think. Don't let society decide your future. Don't let fear dictate your choices. And don't wait for someone else to rescue you. Your freedom is in your hands. These words are a reminder that no matter where you are today, whether you are struggling with financial pressure, dreaming of a better life, or searching for your purpose, you have the ability to change everything. You can build assets. You can escape the rat race. You can create cash flow. You can design a life of abundance, independence, and peace. Robert Kiyosaki's legacy continues because his teachings live inside every person who decides to take control of their life. His journey is not a roadmap, it is an invitation. An invitation to learn, to grow, to take risks, to invest in yourself, and to rise beyond the limits of your circumstances. And as this outro closes, remember one final truth: the richest people in the world are not the ones with the biggest salaries, they are the ones who have mastered the mindset that creates wealth. Robert mastered that mindset, shared it with the world, and now it is your turn to carry it forward.